Hi there. It's part 3. I feel like this is gonna anger some people, but I can't help it. I don't have a video camera, and my computer's down, so this is the only way I can really upload videos on YouTube. After we last left off this review, Bryony being sort of forgiven but sort of not, and sort of atoned but sort of not, by Robbie and Cecilia, who she has visited after close to 8 or 9 years. And the novel then skips, decades, and it's a sort of afternote, not really a part, but sort of a note, and it's London in 1999, so right on the brink of a new century. Bryony is 77, and Leon, who's their older brother, is 89, and that's really, one of the twins is in there as well, but those are the only 3 people who are mentioned as part of the immediate family. Everyone else is just like a distant cousin, a distant niece, a distant blah blah blah. And Bryony has written a novel called Two Figures by a Fountain. I might as well say what she's already written. I'm not going to say anything else besides that. And it's sort of like a memoir, but it cannot be published because she hasn't really changed any names or events, and she has to wait till a lot of people have died before she can publish it, which will mean that it'll get published when she's dead, basically. It's kind of sad, but I don't feel any pity. You will understand why. And Bryony, in celebration of this novel that she's written, and in celebration of, it's just a family reunion, a big family reunion where there's a bunch of distant relatives from the twin side of the family and Leon's 4 marriages, and I think her marriage, she was married, but it doesn't really say if she had any children or not. She's attending a play, and lo and behold, it's the same play of part 1, which is The Trials of Arabella, the same play that she wrote in commemoration of her brother coming home for dinner, and that's sort of very nostalgic thing for her, and the twin is crying, and she doesn't really, it's not certain if he's crying because of the play and because of memories long gone, or because of his brother and that summer where their mom left, or it's not certain why he's crying. He just is, and he's right next to Bryony, so that's why you know he's crying. And we revisit after the play's over and Bryony's back in her room. Throughout this whole thing, we know that she has a disease where she's having sort of tiny strokes. It's like, it's a way of, I think it's dementia, honestly. It's not Alzheimer's, it's just a different memory loss disease. And it sort of gives her migraines, and it's the same problem that her mother had. If you read this novel, I forgot to mention that. Her mother, Emily Tallis, got really bad migraines. It was like it was a sort of sickness that would never really go away. The migraine was always there, ready to get in full bloom. And that, I think, that was transmitted onto Bryony, and Bryony's been suffering the same thing, and apparently it's sort of related to a memory loss thing, where she loses her memory and she suffers strokes and all that fun stuff. Not. And we realize, now that she's back in her room, and my family's being loud, now that she's back in her room and that she's sort of reflecting upon her life, we realize that she changed, in the novel, she changed Cecilia and Robbie's ending for her own personal, I guess, amusement. And that's when my hatred for this character really, I thought I hated her in part 3 and in part 1 throughout the entire novel, but really this last ending note on 1999 really just sealed the deal. I hated this character. I hated her cowardice, her fear, everything. Because, she lived a full, healthy life. She lived till she was 77 years old, and she'll probably live farther along than that till she's a good old ripe age. And, she took away 2 people's happiness, first of all, throughout the entire novel. There was not any sort of happiness between Robbie and Cecilia until apparently part 3. And even then it was sort of, he was still a criminal in her family's eyes and everyone's eyes. And she lived a full, healthy life. Sure, there's a disease, but that's circumstantial. A lot of elderly people get sick. And anguish on part 3 and guilt, that's not enough. That's not enough to atone someone of stealing someone's she changed their ending. She stole she's a different kind of criminal, a different kind of thief of the worst kind, because who steals a life like that? Who steals an ending like that? And you realize that the same imagination that ruined Robbie and Cecilia's time together from 13 years old on that summer in 1935, is the same that is the same life that's putting bread on her table, is the same imagination that's putting bread on her table, that's giving her clothes, that's giving her, a bed to sleep on. Her success as a writer, as a person, stemmed from the fact that she stole their life, their time together. And another book reviewer here called T the Writer, that's his channel, there's no spaces, it's just T the Writer, it looks like a typo. I thought it was a typo at first. Made a good point. She replaced Robbie. She did. Robbie, in case you didn't remember, or I don't think I mentioned it, but in part 1, he's studying to be a doctor at Cambridge, and in part 3, Bryony became a nurse. Cecilia became a nurse, and so did she. So it was a way of getting closer to Cecilia, but also a way to replace Robbie in Cecilia's life. Who does that? And then I had felt so much frustration because of this, because that's one of the themes of the book, is how writers play God in books, and how in order to suit your own preference, you lie about endings, you give everything a happy ending because you couldn't face the stark reality of what really happened. And she literally did just that. She played God. Who plays God? What sick person does that? She changed their story completely, and that was the deal breaker for me. That my hatred for this character was. I think I've only hated a character this much when I read The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Dom, however you pronounce that, and I hated the character Frollo because of all the sorrow that he caused. Not only in Quasimodo, but with Esmeralda and Esmeralda's mother and Phoebus and all of those people. He caused some sort of grief. And I honestly didn't think for the longest time that I would ever find another character to loathe as much as I did Frollo. And look, oh my goodness, Bryony probably tops the chart because she is a different kind of thief. She is a life thief. She steals endings, and she steals lives, and she steals the way things are supposed to be. But however much I hate Bryony, it is a glorious book. It is beautifully written. There's such poetry in this prose. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me frustrated, and I could not have any higher marks for this book than I do now. So pick it up, read it, do your own reviews, make your own assumptions, but I give this book 5 stars. If there were 10 stars to give, I'd give it 10. So, bye guys. Rate, subscribe, view, like, support, and I love you all. Bye.